Daniel, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it, Adrian.
Yeah, you're someone that I've wanted to speak to on the podcast for a long time, and you have a company or organisation. Can you tell us a little bit about that and the name of it, and a bit about what you do? And I guess we're just going to have a conversation in the context of what's going on at the moment as well with the coronavirus and what that means. So yeah, if you could tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so my name's Daniel. I'm 37 years of age. I'm from the UK, and I have a company called Boreas Healing. Well, there's two companies, Boreas Healing, and then recently I released Boreas Athlete. Now, Boreas is the Greek god of winter and wind, and the reason we've incorporated that is because our primary driver of what we do is the Wim Hof method. Which I don't know if you guys have heard. Wim Hof is a Dutch guy who's developed a natural breathing pattern that helps with the autoimmune system and nervous system.
Yes, very popular man in Australia. And his brother, Marcel, comes out to Perth quite a bit as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So using that as a primary driver, but using other holistic methods that I've picked up along the way. So other types of breath work, mindfulness, mindset, drumming, guided meditations, energy work, that kind of thing. And so we utilize these methods in workshops. So people will come to a workshop and we would do the methods of the breathing and the ice bath. Sounds crazy, I know, and the drumming kind of thing. And we do restorative yoga as well. So, and I'm also a partner with my partner, Heather, my girlfriend, Karma Kids Yoga Therapy, where we have been taking yoga and mindfulness into schools and communities as well. So I also work behind the scenes with that. But Heather does the restorative yoga on our workshops, so we kind of help each other out. But they're co-owned. Yeah,
right, nice. So that's a really good way to do it, isn't it? To like each of you bring in the things that you're passionate about and the gifts for, and then be able to have a symbiosis there as well.
Yes, of course.
It's a great way to do it, yeah. So we met in, we were just discussing before we started, we met back in London in 2014, which was like a little bit of a shock to the both of us.
I know, right?
Seems like yesterday too in a lot of ways. And at our good friend Honey Borden's workshop there. And so you had a few years there where you were looking into these different modalities and different things that you were exploring for your own self. And I understand you had asthma either as a youngster or still did as into an adulthood. Is that right?
Yeah. So chronic asthma was diagnosed from the age of 15.
Okay.
It was hospitalization every year, several different types of medication, A&E, multiple trips during the summer months because mine would be triggered, especially by hay fever, pollens, that kind of thing, humidity. And since doing the Wim Hof method, so I've been an official certified coach for over 2 years now, but been practicing for about 3. Since really going deep into the Wim Hof method, I've had 0 hospitalizations, 0 medications. It's gone. I would say that the Wim Hof method was a big thing towards that, but there are other holistic practices that moved me in that direction. I've come to in my personal experiences that the body and mind they are direct reflections. And as crazy as this sounds, the asthma was an emotional issue that hadn't been healed, kind of locked away. Feels like on a cellular level. Can I prove this? No, I can't. But during plant medicine ceremonies with ayahuasca, mushroom ceremonies with shaman, doing other breath work, qigong, yoga, all that kind of thing, I could investigate further into the who's and whys of the asthma. And the Wim Hof method was kind of like the final key, as it were.
Right.
So there were other things that led to that, when we joined the dots backwards, but the Wim Hof method kind of kicked the doors down, let alone, throw away the key, we're just going to kick the doors down.
Sure.
And so I'm not going to say it's cured, but with my regular practice, thankfully, I've been okay since.
Yeah.
It's been amazing.
Did you have any quantitative testing on your VO2 max and things like that before and after? Did you ever
No, I've not. I am in the process of doing that,
Sure.
but I haven't tested that as of yet. But
Right.
I am considered. Don't know if it's the same in Australia, but in the UK, with the coronavirus, I'm going to call it CV. It's just easier. So with CV, chronic asthma is considered a high risk category. So I am a high risk category. But like I said, since for the past 3 years, I've had 0 admissions and 0 medication.
Yeah.
Now I feel strong. So
yeah. So, and which is fantastic, fantastic outcomes, and a lot of the work that Wim Hof has put in himself, but also the people that have utilised his teachings have, there's been marked both anecdotal and scientific outcomes from those practices. What was it that got you? I mean, so you had these years of plant medicines and other various teachings. What was it that brought you to the Wim Hof method, or that form of breathing and cold therapy, where you really felt like, this is for me, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to assist people with in the world?
It was a number of things. So just to give a bit of backstory, my background is personal training and strength and conditioning. Mm-hmm. So a number of years ago, I had the opportunity to move to Goa with my partner to teach in a school. Heather was teaching primary school children. I was teaching sports as for physical education. And through those avenues, I became a strength and conditioning coach for the Indian national football squad. They were preparing for the Under-18s World Cup. So, and I basically got my dream career. I wasn't a personal trainer for very long. I'd kind of taken the scenic route to get there of what am I passionate about and what do I enjoy, Sure. And I talk about this on my workshops. I had the Instagram lifestyle, right? So I had this beautiful house.
I remember.
Motorbike.
The photos are amazing.
Yeah, saw the selfies of on the beach, and I was only working maybe 6 or 7 hours a week with a professional squad, FIFA. Right. I was like, my income was good. It was like, I have finally made it,
Sure.
The vision boards have led me to this. I have manifested this, my ego jumped onto it. But something still didn't feel quite right. On the surface, it was all amazing. I wasn't depressed or anything like that. I mean, I had been many years ago, but I didn't feel content. Something wasn't right. And I wasn't really facing that truth. I was kind of just running away from it. I was diving into my work, and I ended up having a massive asthma attack, like a near fatal. And I've come to the belief that, when you kind of ignore certain when you ignore the shadow, when you're not doing the work, it will present itself through the body to listen. And I was kind of slapped down and forced to stop. And the asthma was that bad, the attack, I had to spend a week in India in hospital, and then I had to come back to the UK for a week. And I realized that because of the humidity conditions in India, I couldn't really go back to India. It was a huge trigger for the asthma. And I kind of went into a little bit of a depression. I was like, well, I finally found my dream life. How could this be taken away from me? I'm back in Northampton, the UK. I don't know what's going on. And for many years leading up to finding the Wim Hof method, a lot of the spiritual practices I had gone into had benefited me quite a lot, but I felt I wasn't integrating it properly. I was out here in my spirituality as opposed to grounding it in the body. And I went on Facebook and I saw this post on cold showers. This was nothing to do with the Wim Hof method at the time. And it was to do with boosting your testosterone levels. So me being the PT and like, hoorah, I was like, yeah, I'm going for this. So jumped in, and this was in November, UK at the time. And it said build up slowly. And I was like, screw that, 2 minutes, bang. It was a torturous 2 minutes. It was full on resistance, full on fight, which the Wim Hof method isn't.
Right.
But what was interesting was when I came out of the shower and I looked into the mirror, the mask had gone. I saw me, the I am.
Mm.
You know, it was I was coursing full of adrenaline, but I was very centered and calm. And I thought, wow, maybe there's something to this. And of course, this was only temporary. The thoughts, the mind shot in again. But I said, I'm going to keep up with this. So I did it for 2 weeks, just a cold shower every morning, 2 to 3 minutes long.
Did you do hot water as well, or just straight cold?
I did do hot water afterwards for sort of hygiene purposes, but
right.
for practice, it was just cold, get comfortable with uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I felt amazing after the 2 weeks. And I thought there must be something to this. The kind of scientific mind in me through the personal training, I wanted to investigate further. And that's when I found the Wim Hof method. And I went on and got the app. I tried the breathing, and that was just this, like an explosion. I tried that breathing once, and I was like, I remember being speechless. And I just went head first into the practices. And it was just, I felt my asthma improving. I felt my mindset clearer. My mind was less busy, way more present. And I thought there's something to this. And for a long time with my personal training practice, a lot of the work I was doing with my clients, I always felt that just exercising the body or the physical energy systems wasn't enough. Because a lot of the time with the clients, I could feel the subtext of the, I want to lose weight, but the subtext of it underneath was unhealed emotional pain.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, how do I kind of incorporate that into my personal training? I don't have the qualifications, or I don't have the kind of the way in. Off method I found what would be my way in. So then I went in to do the courses, did the advanced course in Holland with Wim Hof. Then I did the masters in Poland with Wim again. That was when we climbed the mountain in minus 20 degrees in our shorts. And became an instructor. And then 2 years later, the personal training side of what I do is pretty much disappeared. And it's now more Wim Hof, the mindset, the breath work, the integration of mind, body, soul. And just sort of a general holistic practice. The personal training has kind of gone by the way now.
Yeah. So, you're right. More of a, like you said, holistic balance comes to mind as well. Way of assisting people and helping them, in their daily lives, be able to lead the best life they can. And it sounds like the timing for that you did this was like perfect too, really, because it sort of became did become a worldwide sensation, the idea of Wim Hof and breathing and cold exposure and all sort of thing, and the ability for the immune system and the key point that I've found that you touched on there in regards to the cold showers is the presence that it also brings you as well. I mean, no matter what's going on in your mind or in your head, you turn that shower onto cold and like nothing brings you into the presence more than that. And it's a really amazing place to be in. And I guess the how we then not overcome, but deal, but how do we work then with the physical aspect of it and then the mental aspect of, bringing yourself into an uncomfortable position. And as you said earlier, it's about becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable. And that's where a lot of the insights and growth goes. So what was some of the, I guess, sort of lessons you had around the finding comfort in the uncomfortable as you went along in your process?
It was a huge lesson for me. It was almost like a big part of the puzzle. I'm not saying I'm complete. I don't think anyone is. It's an ongoing journey, right? But it felt like it suddenly gave me that balance point. Before I said I was out there many years ago. I was down here. Now I'm very much into about the middle way.
Right.
We've used the strap line with Boreas Healing and Boreas Athlete of the calm within the storm, and that's what it feels like. There are lots of scientific evidence for healing the body with the Wim Hof method in terms of autoimmune diseases. And it did so with me with the chronic asthma. But the biggest gift it has given me is staying calm in extreme stress. So with, for example, and what happens is the body, the mind, the subconscious with training remembers how calm you were during that high stress moment, i.e. an ice bath, a shower, with the controlled breathing. And so as time goes on, as you practice this as a daily practice or a weekly practice, when, you know, the body, the subconscious mind can't tell the difference between a tiger or a deadline at work, right? It's just the amygdala fires up and it's fear. And we're just scanning for things that, you know, that are going to threaten us so we can survive. But the more we can stay in that calm, the more that we can align those systems into a centered state, whether it's an argument with the girlfriend, a deadline at work, family issues. Of course, we can't necessarily change that external environment that's occurring, but we can change how we deal with that. And if we're calm, we become the captain of our own ship. You know, we engage the prefrontal cortex as opposed to the monkey mind. And when you're calm and collected, it's, you know, situation, code red, breathe. What can I do to deal with it? And it's just focusing the mind, becoming very present. And that is what it has given me. That's the biggest thing. Because many years ago, I would panic very, very easily. And touch wood, I can't remember the last time I actually panicked. I feel fear, of course, you know. But in terms of full-blown panic, I can't remember the last time.
So the type of panic that would have previously led onto an asthma attack?
An asthma attack, or just a freeze moment where I just freeze. There were many incidents, there were many occasions where I would self-sabotage in my life. You know, there is success just here, and I'll be kind of moving towards it, and then the self-sabotage, the negative narratives of childhood or whatever would kind of kick in, and then the panic would come, and then I'd just drop off. I'd just step away. Over and over again, I would do this. Because ultimately, you know, there's this talk of fear of failure, but there's also fear of success that I don't think we acknowledge as well, especially with like poverty and our relationship with money, which was a big thing, me going into business. That's another conversation. But it just allowed me to kind of become the observer of all this, you know, step away. Like Eckhart Tolle talks about, you know, raising the awareness and just viewing it from an objective point of view and going, it's okay. And it's interesting how the breath works, because when you're controlling the breath in high stress situations, i.e. an ice bath, all it takes, the body remembers. It's like a muscle memory. You take a deep breath in, exhale out the mouth, engage the parasympathetic nervous system, and it is just like a switch. I'm calm. It's powerful stuff.
Yeah. So you had these experiences over the last couple of years and learning and teaching these different skills, and you decided to sort of, you know, offer it to the world and bring it to the world, which meant starting Boreas. And what were some of the lessons you learned early on with teaching this yourself? You know, everything leading up until, I guess, the last month or so, we'll perhaps say, and then we'll continue the conversation into what's going on with that. But what was that experience like for you, starting the company, and then, you know, having clients and then seeing the results and things like that?
Okay. Well, so Boreas wasn't my first business. I had a business called Quantum Fitness, which was the personal training one. I went into India, and that failed. So there was always that bit of trepidation of am I willing to kind of get out my comfort zone and start again because of the failure of the first business? But I knew I was onto something. It felt like a vocation, a calling. And as I write, I have to put this out there into the world. And I quickly learned that competition is a good thing. What do I mean by that? So I was saturated in a Wim Hof method bubble. I was part of the Facebook forums. You know, I had friends who were doing it. I had family members. So I just assumed that, everyone knows about Wim Hof because I know about Wim Hof. And everyone's going to know about the benefits because look at me. But in Northampton, in the UK, 98% of people, I'd talk about Wim Hof and they'd go, who?
Yeah.
And then I'd mention ice bath and they'd go, what? Are you mad?
Sure.
And so going back to the competition is a good thing. Before I thought, well, when I was a personal trainer, there are hundreds of personal trainers in my area, you know, and I had to really fight for the competition. But competition shows there's a marketplace, right? With the Wim Hof method, there was no market for it. So when I first started, it was like a lead balloon. I was like, I just naively thought that I'm going to start booking in all the workshops. And after the second one, sold out. That was that was not the case. And, you know, having to educate myself with marketing on and how to nurture an audience first and build trust.
Educate an audience.
Educate an audience, allow them to trust me, build in the narrative of why I go into an ice bath as opposed to jump in an ice bath and cure all ills. People are naturally skeptical, right? And I was so naive with it. But it was a good learning curve because those two workshops, which just, you know, I made it quite a bit on. I was like, right, take a step back and educate the audience out there via social media, which was primarily Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, nice. And I was and still am loving the content you're putting out, and it's amazing to see some of the people, you know, doing this work and moving through it. And I mean, I'm one of those Wim Hof bubble people too. I understand totally what you mean. I mean, I think it must have been Joe Rogan I first saw him on, maybe that Vice documentary they did on him. But, you know, amongst me and my friends, you know, speak about Wim Hof. Yeah, of course. But you're right. I mean, probably is 1 or 2% of the population, as is like a Tim Ferriss or a Joe Rogan, you know, like people or things that we've come into over the last few years, even ayahuasca or something like that, you know, like we think it's like part of the, you know, social vernacular. And it's not. And we've got to be wary of that as well, that what we're doing and what sort of some of the things that we're wanting to learn and implement, a lot of people don't know about. So that's where really education is key. And also leading by example is probably a primary thing. And it sounds like that's what you were able to do, obviously with the asthma aspect of it, but then also from there on your ability to perceive and become more of the observer than perhaps you were before.
Yes, certainly. Yeah. Certainly, for sure. That was a big one.
So we've now moved into, we'll call it CV because it's easier than saying coronavirus. But we've had I keep saying the word, everyone keeps saying, or at least around me, and I do too, it's very interesting times we're in. And it is very interesting times. It's unique in the manner that we have had pandemics go through our societies and global societies before, but not in a long time, really, not in decades, not to the extent that it is now. We've had SARS and, you know, the bird flu and, you know, Ebola in Africa a couple of years ago, but nothing that struck the world in this manner for a long, long time. But we also have technology available to us that we didn't have previously. So a lot of companies like yourselves, a lot of organizations like yourselves, a lot of it is sort of social media based and advertising through social media and different things, blogs, etc. But still a large part of it is just the face-to-face interactions and the groups that you have as well. So when this all started to come up, like say, I don't know, in England, I guess it was like 2, 3, 4 weeks ago.
It started to bubble through, I'd say, about a month ago. We've been in kind of the harder lockdown for a week.
Right.
But I really started to take notice of it. Past 2 weeks was when people were really starting to talk about it, and you could see it kind of gain momentum across Europe. We knew it was coming, basically. That was the kind of talk.
Sure.
Lockdown. Yeah.
But I guess I think most people weren't really sure of what the outcomes were going to be and how that process was going to play out, especially in regards to individuals and business as well. But, you know, in the last week or two, it's really changed quite dramatically, and a lot of people have had to adapt quite dramatically. So you wrote a post. That's why I thought it'd be great to do a podcast with you and get a video with you, because you wrote a post about just in regards to what you can do to help people in these times, and different people that own businesses. And I mean, what are some of the things that have, I guess, come up for you as a business owner, especially someone who relies heavily on that face-to-face interaction? What are some of the things and thoughts that have come up for you in these especially in the last week or two?
Well, I always knew that in a business sense, putting out video content makes sense. You know, it's once it's been produced, once you've covered the costs of the initial investment, there's high profit margins. It's very easy to scale. You can have a far greater audience. But I guess I was just, I was kind of complacent. Yeah, that's the thing I need to do next. But, when you're in business, you've got all these hats and you're trying to prioritize which one you need to do. But then obviously CV comes along and kind of forces you into that adaptation of, I can't really kind of save this for next month. If I want to continue to try and draw an income from this, I've got to start seriously thinking about video content. And of course, we're saturated by video content, right? On our Facebook feed, we follow like Joe Rogan, for example, or Aubrey Marcus, I follow, and they're doing great quality video content. And initially, before I started, what was holding me back was, I don't have the technological know-how. I don't have the money to invest in all this. I don't have the time. And this past week, I've had to really investigate that. And it's false. Most of us have smartphones. Right now I'm using this LED light that I received today. And that's, you just unpack it. And in these times that we're in, I really feel it's about that authentic connection. So I made that video to people in the community of, it doesn't have to be perfect. Get it out there. Authentic imperfection is better than false perfection.
Sure.
Because especially on social media, you get those entrepreneurs who are driving around in Lamborghinis and a mansion behind them, and they're like 22. And I'm sure that, I'm sure that could be true. But I really feel that CV is going to just eject those guys. It's like that kind of superficial stuff.
Totally.
And it's this genuine connection of people trying, people just picking up the phones. And it can be a scary thing. A lot of people that I've been speaking to in this community are, it's all very well, Dan, and you speaking on the camera, but I don't like speaking into a lens. It is alien to me. I don't get technology. But there are so many apps now available just from your phone that we can use to just put out some basic video content out there. I do think it is important to build slowly, because a big thing that I realized was when this actually started to happen, and not just for myself, but for Heather with the Karma Kids Yoga Therapy. Of course, we can no longer go into schools and teach our yoga because of the lockdowns. It was this sense of, it felt like an arms race. Because you'd go onto social media and suddenly all these coaches were releasing video content. And it was, if we don't act right this second, we're going to lose our customer base. Lose that section of the market. And of course, this is just scarcity mindset. If you are a holistic practitioner or a coach, you have a client base. They're not going to forget you. If you've done the job and you've helped empower them, they're going to remember you. And it was like when I was a personal trainer years ago, when I spoke about competition, I thought, okay, I'm going to do personal training because I love fitness, but there are hundreds of PTs. I mean, this gym that I'm going to be working in, there are 10 PTs alone. But you find your niche. People resonate to your message. There's only one me, there's only one you. And it's the same with video content. It's the same with video. We're not, you don't have to be a Joe Rogan as a podcaster, Don't have to be these Tony Robbins as a mindset coach to earn a living. and not just earn a living to get by, but to thrive as well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's a blog by Kevin Kelly, I think his name is. It's called 1,000 True Fans. Have you ever heard of it? Tim Ferriss has referenced it a few times. Yes. But it's just a very good understanding around, the number doesn't have to particularly be 1,000, but the idea being that, if you're trying to shoot for as many followers as you could possibly get, you're probably missing the key aspect of what you're there for. And the truth is that you don't need to have millions and millions and millions of followers. That, as Kevin Kelly described, in that you could have 1,000 true fans who, if you were to build something or create something, who each of them were to pay $100 for it, that's $100,000 in a year. And then that's it. You're settled. And I think it's a great way to look at that. Before CV, we had, I think, too many people wanting to gain as many followers as possible, or as more of a status thing rather than something that was tangible in society. And I think that's going to change a lot now, where people will come out and start creating more content to share and put their perspectives out there. But it's, it can be a tricky one. I think, going back to Tim Ferriss, one of the big lessons I've learned from him, and the way he sort of tackles each of his blog posts, for example, which his blog posts were sort of one of the things that modes that really got him well known, was he doesn't write each blog in the hope that 100% of his audience are going to like it or appreciate it. He'll go off the basis that maybe only 10% of the readers will get something out of it or enjoy the blog, and he looks at that for both the video content that he creates under his own moniker, but also for the podcast he does as well. And that frees up a lot of cognitive space in his mind, where he's not sort of stressing and worrying about, is this any good, or are people going to like it? Instead, he can just be himself, focus on the message, and just have an aim in his mind for just, if only 10% of the people get something out of this, then great. And I think that's a great way to approach it, especially now, where, like you said, there's a lot of people now all of a sudden putting out a lot of video content, especially, and for good reason. But if anyone's feeling like they're stuck or unable to move forward just through there being too much out there, just think about the fact that it doesn't need to be perfect. Perhaps employ the 80-20 rule, I think, is a great way to do it too. It doesn't have to be 100% right, but if you can get it to like 80%, something like that, then that's fantastic. And just aim for 10% of the people that you're going out there. And if you can just give yourself that breathing space, especially in these times where there's a bit of anxiety, a bit of stress for people, then that will help facilitate your true message to come through, and then you can communicate that to those who need it.
Sure. And I do feel that CV has rocketed this online coaching community, industry, whatever you call it, by a decade.
Yeah,
it will have. It's boom. Yeah. Like, this is just the early stages of it. Yeah. But things. I'm a believer in morphic resonance. The faster the faster I learn and you learn, it's a collective response. We all learn faster.
Yeah. And Rupert Sheldrake, 100 Monkey.
Yes. System, yeah. Love it. Yeah, I love Sheldrake. And because of the very nature of online content, of reaching many people, we have to think beyond ourselves and move beyond ourselves in business. And by that, I mean, when I first started a business, I think a lot of people can relate. You're trying to wear every single hat. One of my business mentors said to me, and I have taken it on board, is if you treat your business like your baby, you cannot think objectively. It doesn't mean you shouldn't care for your business. Of course you do. But your business should be a vehicle, not your baby. Because when you're thinking of your baby, you're like this. And so you won't bring on partners, because you're constantly worrying, but no one is going to do it as perfect as me. No one has my vision. Well, of course not. But what happens is when you treat it as a vehicle, Like, I love my car, but I know that that car is not me. Use that car, use that vehicle effectively. Now I can go, well, you know what? I'm not a mechanic. I'm not a spray guy. I'm not an interior guy. So now I can actually get people in who are better than I am at that particular field, which frees me up for what I am passionate for and what I'm good at. And then a stumbling block for that was, okay, fair enough. This was a conversation with my mentor. It was like, fair enough, but I'm just starting out. I don't have much money. I can't afford a social media manager and I can't afford a graphic designer. But now there are freelancer sites such as Fiverr, and I use that a lot, where you can get people in other countries to do the work for you, still give them a competitive, fair living, but it's cost effective. And I think it's great because, before I'd get really stressed over how on earth do I make a Facebook banner photograph, or YouTube banner photograph. I've started a YouTube channel. And before I would have spent 8 hours on it, head against the wall. But then I thought, well, actually, if my hourly rate is X amount for 8 hours, I've actually wasted a lot of money because my time is valuable, as opposed to just give it to an expert. I have a guy in Romania and India and Sri Lanka do my work, comes back, and within 24 hours, I've got the finished product.
Yeah.
Boom, it's done. I win, the partner wins, and hopefully the customer wins as well. Win-win all the way around.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a very good point. I think, there are so many methodologies out there for us now. If we know we need to create something, to get out there and find the people that can do it. And like you said, sites like Fiverr are great for that, especially with social media being such a strong presence, where if you've got a business these days, you've really got to look at Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, I guess are the core ones, email list and things like that. There's sites like Canva, CANVR, which are great for, getting all your mock-ups together. Or something I did like a few years ago, I had to learn it for my profession, but I learned Photoshop. And so any of the graphics I need to do, I can just sort of do myself and save a bit of money. And it takes me a little bit of time, but, I'll find efficiencies in that each time I do it anyway. So there's ways to get around it. If you don't understand or know how to do something, then you just have to sort of think outside the square a little bit, don't you? And like, well, if it's not something I can do, and I love the analogy about the car, then I need to go get this person help me with this and get this person help with that. And I think today what we're seeing is that there's so many people out there willing to offer their experiences and their expertise in lots of different realms that they wouldn't normally, just to help our fellow human being, because we're in this time where no one knows what the fuck is going on or where we're going. And, if we have the potential to really challenge the status quo and really create something that's novel and new as we move through this and move out of this. So, there's lots of opportunities I find, but it's about, like you said, just really having to understand where you're at and look at avenues and ways to adapt and move through this next period of time.
Sure. Yeah. Partnerships are key in this. I mean, just from this conversation through social media, you approached me. I've had people approach me and I've approached others in terms of collaborations. Yeah. I work with breath work and mindset, and I've been approached with people who are personal trainers. Yes, I'm coached in that, but it's not so much a strong passion of mine. So I'm like, right, let's partner up and create some video content.
Sure.
And let's just see what happens. At the very least, you're going to learn something. You're going to learn something. And another thing I'd say with people putting out video content is, obviously, we're all in different financial situations. We have different amount of savings, perhaps no savings at all. Perhaps we feel we're on different levels of desperation. So I can't obviously speak for everyone out there, but the money, the monetization will come, especially if you're new to this. Focus on the nurturing, focus on the education, building that trust, really connecting with your audience. And whether that is when all this shuts down and you kind of jump off the video content, you now have more people coming to your face-to-face workshops because of the trust you've built, or you think, actually, I quite enjoy this video content stuff. I'm going to keep going and push with it.
For sure.
But, if you keep putting the value out there, they say that money finds the value. So just focus on that. I know it can be quite stressful, but it's like, yeah, but shit, I need to pay my bills. Like I need to, of course, we have to appreciate that pragmatic fact, but just keep putting the value in there, and the collaborations and the partnerships will just come. It's just this, the path, do good, and the path will kind of come into you. Just we've got to get out of our own way, our own fears.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. And get out of the way of ourselves as well, right?
Yes.
I think that's a term that has helped me a lot in the past of feeling some sort of procrastination around creating a new blog or a new podcast or a new video, whatever. But the more I think about just the idea of getting myself out of the way, which when I say getting myself out of the way means getting my fear, my bullshit, my insecurity, my self-doubt. But that was a lot easier to do previous to CV. And I feel like you were saying too, I think a lot of people who are under stressful situations now, that, to put food on the table and pay the bills, that this is like one of the best times for teachings of getting yourself out of the way that we have ever had, to be able to compartmentalize a little bit, that you can still get your message across, get your product, I say in quotations, but your passion or whatever it might be, your art, and doing so in a way that people are really going to see the value in what you're putting forward. And with that, the rest will take care of itself.
For sure. And I think this is a paradigm shift, not only for our industry, but all industries. Yeah. I think this has really shown people, to go inside and really take stock of their motivations in life and their passions. And the whole point of maybe people wanting to take an artistic route when they were younger, but they were told maybe from themselves or their parents or their peers, that's not a sensible thing to do. Get a secure job, get a proper job. Well, look, all the so-called secure jobs are falling, right? There is no such thing as a secure job. Even huge corporations have been going under. Look at BA, Virgin Atlantic. So I think it's really going to show people that, what have I got to lose? Why can't I start my own business? Why can't I start my side hustle? Why can't I earn a living from doing something that I'm absolutely passionate about? I do think that this is going to create more of that. We are in the age of the entrepreneur. We are in the age where, as long as you've got a phone and a Wi-Fi signal and a laptop, you're good to go. As long as we are humble and we learn and we keep going after the failures. But we're in a great time now. It's such a supportive environment that we're in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think for a few years now we've had that sort of decentralization, haven't we? Where more and more people have been getting away from working for a large organization and doing things themselves. Like you said, like just having a laptop, and then you can create an account on Fiverr. We were talking about, for example, before, and offer your services, whether it might be like with Photoshop or video editing or whatever. And that's been the progression for the last, say, 5 to 10 years. This is going to catapult that. I think what we're going to see is, because of, let's say, necessity as a mother in invention, I think because of what's going on now, we're going to see new systems come in place that help the individual more, that help the business owner or the artist to create an income and to create some sort of wealth from the value that they're giving out, which we haven't seen before, because we have had, I think, again, the last few years, many of us, Daniel, I'm sure you're one of them, thinking and knowing that a lot of the way our economy especially is set up is ridiculous. Like the way we do things is very sort of post-industrial, still conveyor belt type factory standards in the way we both educate ourselves and then the careers that we have. And at the moment, we're probably seeing that all that was just fluff. And that's what it's turning to. It's like a house of cards.
And I guess it's going to be a paradigm shift for the education system as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is like in Australia, but my partner's also a teacher. and many of the things that are still being taught are archaic.
Right.
This industrial revolution, it's you're a cog to go into the system, and it's like, well, it's not the way anymore.
No, well, if there's no system in the future, then
right?
What are we going to do with these kids? What are we going to do with these children? I think that's something that people, and a lot of people have been talking about for a few years now, but now where our hand is going to be forced in a way. It's up to us ultimately now what we do with it. Do we do something that's going to create ultimate value for a lot of people and really progress us forward in society, where we do work together, we do create together, and we do come up with systems and ideas and products that really can take us to the stars? I don't know. Or do we just keep the same old, which is also potential? I don't know. We'll see. I'd hope not, but this time does provide an opportunity, as difficult as it is.
Yeah, it's a fantastic opportunity. It's we said prior to the conversation of collective dark night of the soul, and stripping away all our the ways that we kind of hide and run.
Our comfort zones.
Our comfort zones. We all do it to certain extents, and there's no judgment, But now, when you're locked inside, you really have to kind of get comfortable with the uncomfortable, get comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
And if we can negotiate that, if we can kind of rest into that, and with compassion, with love, allow that natural transmutation to occur, then we're really going to find what is at our core, our sole purpose, or whatever you want to call it. And I do believe that every single one of us, if we identify into that, there is a place in the world for that. And also economically as well. That every single one of us followed our passions. Because some people argue, but my passion can't be monetized. I would strongly disagree with that. That everything will just balance out as like a natural ecosystem. Yeah. The money will just flow in between all the parties. Yeah. Because some people are passionate about banking, Sure. Some people are passionate about accountancy. It's not that those key systems would drop, but the people that are doing accounting who aren't passionate about accounting, who may now move into another area. This is where we're going to see the shift, I believe, in the global economic ecosystem. Yeah. I think there's going to be less friction. Right. With all this. Sure. We're going to strip away the bullshit, knock down all the boundaries that we've imposed upon ourselves, and it's going to be a freer market. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that would be an amazing outcome, right? And I think from there too, you will see quite a lot of political change as well. I mean, that'll be forced. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, we're going to have, like in Australia, where each day was sort of tightening down more and more. Today it got announced by our federal government that you're not allowed to be outside with any more than 2 people together at a time, and please stay home, and what's going on in a lot of the world. And a friend of mine was talking about the other day about how people, for perhaps the first time in their lives, are going to have to be with themselves. They're going to have a lot of people who are who have moved through life perhaps trying to avoid certain aspects of themselves and their past. It's going to, this space and this time is going to be created that they will have to do that, and there's probably going to be some trauma come up and violence and things like that, but there's also going to be potential for quite a lot of healing as well. And from those two, and everything in between, but in those two things, the creativity that comes from that and the ability to create new novel ideas, I'm just really, really, really interested in that. Like, I'm really interested in what it is that we can bring forward, because my idea is that creativity is what's going to save our bacon. Creativity, I don't just mean with the CV pandemic, but just in general, moving into the future. It's creativity, but yet we've lived in a paradigm, at least for the last 100 odd years, where that hasn't been the modus operandus. Instead, like we spoke about earlier, it's about going to school and getting you prepared to be a
cog in that machine, but that machine might not be there at the other end of the CV. Yeah.
For sure. Yes, very, very good point.
In England at the moment, whereabouts are you guys at? The schools have shut down. What about in the public realm as well?
Okay, so yes, schools have shut down. We're only allowed outside for necessary shopping, i.e., banking, post office, supermarkets for groceries, medications, that kind of thing. We're only allowed out 2 at a time, or as a family unit. We can't visit friends and family. Schools have closed down. You're only allowed to go to work if you're a key worker. So that's why many of us have to stay at home now. What else? They're thinking about, according to media today, they're thinking about tightening up even more. How that will transpire, I don't know. There are more police out on the streets. Right. They've had more powers to stop people, disperse people. Of course, that can be a whole new conversation about the powers of the government and all that kind of thing.
I know.
So, yeah, I mean, it is lockdown here. It is. Yeah.
And have they given a time, or they just said this is just what we're doing and we need to play it out and play it by ear?
There's so many reports being released of what particular government ministers are advising the Prime Minister to do. I saw one report saying that in order to really nail this down, the lockdown should be up until at least June.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I do think they're going to be imposed further and in a more strict way. How? I don't know. Initially, when this lockdown started, the official lockdown in the UK on Monday, Prime Minister said 3 weeks. We're going to do this for 3 weeks and then see what happens afterwards. But members of the cabinet have been, Prime Minister himself, Boris Johnson, has CV. Minister of Health, ironically, has it.
Oh, really?
Interesting. Not laughing at their, personal, just ironic, right?
The irony,
so, it's no one knows.
Yeah.
No one knows. People are taking it a day at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, so it sounds like as of today, we're up to about where you guys are in regards to the movements allowed and things like that. And that is a good point that you touched on, is in regards to how governments enforce this, and then what happens when when it's time to move back into some more normalcy, with this lockdown state that's been built around this time. And one of the fears is that some of these countries, especially that are more of a dictatorship, will just keep those lockdown processes. You may be able to go out and be in public and do all that, but a lot of the other processes that were there of freedom will be taken away, and that's a huge issue. That I don't know. I've not really heard any politician talk about the aspect of that.
Yeah, I mean, it can be scary if you think about it in that way. Like, governments could kind of perceive this as, this was easier than what we thought. And, like you say about certain countries, maybe once we're out of this pandemic, that actually we may keep some of these lockdowns in place to control the population. It's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 back. We'll lock you down. We'll release a little bit of freedom. We'll lock you down, release a little bit of freedom. What happened with 9/11 and all that kind of thing. Not obviously this conversation go down a very different route with conspiracy and all that kind of thing. But it's interesting to observe. But ultimately, because I before, back in the past, I would go down the rabbit hole of all this kind of stuff, and I always think that the truth is in the middle. Somewhere in the middle. You've got the
That's
far right,
one of the things I agree with. Yeah.
You're kind of in the middle, and ultimately. What I can do is be the best me. What is in front of me? What do I have relative control over? Be the best me I can be within that, and the people around me, hopefully leading by example, and so on and so on and so on. Worrying about certain things that I have no control over and projecting my anger, projecting my fear, isn't going to do anyone any good.
Yeah. No,
I observe, but I don't try to kind of energetically feed into it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, which is a fantastic way to do it. I think a lot of the content we're seeing coming from mainstream media, though, is very much wrapped up in the that fear aspect, like you talked about earlier, that shitting for that limbic system, for the reptilian part of our brain. Yeah. And we have no real way then, if you haven't practiced it, to be able to get some rationale around it and understand, well, there's also amazing opportunity here too. And it's an opportunity for us to all see that we're all in this together. We're living on this little pebble in space in the infinite realm of the universe, but we can all be easily affected by this one particular thing. And my hope and my vision is that we'll come out of this understanding that the separation, whether it be by nation state or religion, that we've been taught is just not correct. It's not there. We are human beings, and we're susceptible to this little virus called coronavirus as well. So I think that's going to be and even if not everyone in this world population will have that understanding, I think a great many people will start to understand that, and then be able to look at ways to work together and to collaborate. That would be the ideal, really. How do you feel in England specifically it may play out in the next sort of, so let's say that June period when I was looking at doing something again? What are your thoughts around that? Do you feel like it'll get to that, or it's too hard to say at the moment? Or
what, in terms of the lockdowns going as far as June? Yeah. I never thought it would get to this point. I kind of had suspicions, but with the lockdowns that are coming into place, and that there's an area in London that they've built as like an emergency hospital for like 4,000 beds. Okay. And that kind of, when you see that, and it's being built as we speak, that's like, wow, okay, that's something to consider, right? So I could see it going as far as June. Hopefully they'll be able to kind of scale back on some of the lockdowns, so they'll ease off on the restrictions. But we will see. I think we're going to be in a better position in the next week or so, because they're trying to find they're comparing it to China and Italy, of course, about like when it's peaking and when it plateaus. Sure. But I think at the moment what they're seeing with the exponential growth of it is we're still on the upward curve. So I think that's the difficult thing. While we're still on that upward curve of exponential growth, they're going to be clamping down hard for sure. So,
we'll just have to work with it, I guess. And like you said, in the meantime, just offer the best version of ourselves as possible, and then just hope that we'll understand too that energy really does move around to the people around you as well. Like if you're coming at it from a place of fear, then that's sort of, that will become your world. But if you're coming from it from a place of, is gratitude too hard a word to use? It's not really. I mean, we can apply gratitude to everything in life in a way that we can learn and grow and develop, which we wouldn't have had if it hadn't been for this virus coming forward. It really can be and will be an impetus for us to be better as human beings.
For sure. And I feel this is an opportunity that we could potentially go two ways as a society. I'm a firm believer in we create heaven on earth or hell on earth. And what we invest our energy into, we will get back. So the people that, I don't know if it's the same in Australia, where we've had people hoarding toilet roll and eggs. Yeah. It's been some areas of the UK, like especially in London, it's been like a zombie movie. It's been crazy. Yeah. But I feel that and again, no judgment with this, if one chooses that path, all they are going to do is create that community around themselves. They're going to create that like for like, fear, scarcity, dog eat dog, and they will just move further along that path. If they're not, if they continue to run from that fear and not really investigate the underlying issues, whereas if we have the compassion and the courage, of course that's a day by day thing, and we don't contract, but we continue to be expansive, then we will pull in that community together. And that new era, that new world will come, the paradigm shift, we will build those connected communities. And if you're going to choose fear, then you're going to build that too. Doesn't mean you can't jump into the other and vice versa. You've got to maintain that resonance, okay? But yeah, it's a unique opportunity. The dark side of the soul, I really feel it is on the collective. It's all that shit that we've run from. We can't run from it anymore. We can't just go down to the pub and get hammered. We can't. We literally, we physically can't. We have to face it. We have to face. But there is help out there. There is help out there for all of us. We just need to face ourselves. We're all in this together.
Yeah, and be willing to ask for help as well. Being okay with asking for help, which is a difficult thing for a lot of people. Yeah. Well, Daniel, I think that's a great way to wrap up. I think it's a great message, that you've left there for people to understand that, I really appreciate that aspect of looking at like this is a move into the dark night of the soul where, we're going to have a time where we're going to learn a lot about ourselves and what truly makes us tick and what makes us happy. And, it will be interesting to perhaps record another one of these in 6 months' time or a year's time and see what come out from there. How can people find out about you, Daniel, and reach out to you if they'd like to?
So the best platforms are Facebook and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently with partners at the minute creating a webinar platform for people. Sure. So that's built by people from the holistic community for the holistic community. So we've identified that there is a lot of fear with technology. You've got your Zoom, your Skype and all that kind of thing, but there's not very little way of customizing this platform. So we're trying to put together a webinar-based platform where you can sell your video content or do it for free. You can launch webinars, you can launch podcasts, and this is called Vibration. We're going to be raising the vibration of the community. So that's something that's going to be coming. But initially, it's Boreas Healing on Facebook or Boreas Athlete on Facebook. Yeah. The vibration platform that I'm speaking of will be building my website as well. So that's kind of come down. When that comes back, it'll be www.boreashealing.com.
All right. Brilliant. Yeah, nice one. Well, I implore everyone that's listening and watching to this to go check it out. The work that you do, Daniel, is fantastic. And, the small steps that I've taken into that world of breathing, the breath and cold therapy has made a noticeable difference in my life. So I think it's something that, especially at these times, a lot of people can get a tremendous amount of benefit from. So, yeah, if it's something that you're interested in, anyone out there who's not heard of Wim Hof or Daniel Beckitt, please check out a lot of the content that's available out there. It really provides an opportunity at the moment to look into that. So, yeah, go and have a look. Yeah.
And thank you so much for this opportunity. And it's wonderful what you're doing. You're reaching out to different sectors. You're doing your thing and seeing how you are going into different sectors. With your clothing range, for example, the sacred geometry stuff. I love it. And it has, I see that on Instagram, I see that on Facebook. And there are moments when I'm like, am I doing the right thing? Can I really walk this path? And then I see content from people like yourselves and I go, yeah, let's give it another go.
Yeah. Definitely.
Thank you so much for that.
Likewise, bro. It's been the same with you, and I think that's where the thing of where we're doing this together, we can help feed off each other, and we can learn from each other, and know that it's going to be okay. For that very reason you just spoke about, the whole reason I did this podcast was because of London Real. Do you know that you've seen those guys?
London Real, for sure. Yeah.
And Nick ended up quite fortunate to meet Nick a few times. He was one of the early precursors on there, but. I first saw them on the Joe Rogan podcast, and then they were doing their own podcast, London Real. And I remember watching it, think, well, if these two guys can do a podcast, I can easily do a podcast, So I think a lot of the barriers that we have in our minds is purely because we haven't seen someone else do it before. Once we see someone do something, we know we then it must be possible to do. So it's just a matter of doing it. And that's why I think it's important, like we spoke about earlier, that people start sharing their experiences, sharing their story, particularly now, sharing their expertise. And I think that will help to build and cultivate a lot of positive outcomes now and into the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, Daniel. Well, yeah, thanks very much. I really appreciated this conversation. I really appreciate your time. And we'll chat again, I'm sure, in a few months' time and see where we're at then.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for your time, Adrian. Appreciate it.
You too. Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you. Take care, guys. Thank you.
Cheers.